Welcome back to Black and Briefed, our history on the ballot. And today I have a very, very exciting candidate from my hometown, my home county, Broward County, Florida. This is Elijah Manley. He is running for United States House of Representatives for Florida's 20th Congressional District. Florida's 20th District includes parts of Broward and Palm Beach counties and is home to one of the largest Black populations in the state. This race matters not just locally, but nationally, because the issues facing South Florida reflect larger conversations happening across the country right now. Housing affordability and instability, healthcare access, student debt, immigration reform, and economic equity. Elijah Manley has been involved in youth advocacy, racial justice work, and voter engagement efforts throughout South Florida. His platform includes support for Medicaid for all, housing protections, student debt relief, which I like to hear that, and comprehensive immigration reform. Today, we'll talk about how activism translates into governing, what federal authority actually looks like in practice, and what representation should mean for the residents of Florida's 20th district. Again, you guys, this is educational in nature. This is not a partisan conversation. And this is just to encourage you guys to go out and vote, because there are some very talented people that are looking to change the political landscape of America. So Elijah, I thank you for joining me tonight. Okay, well, we're going to kind of get into your origin story, because what I love about you is that you're not coming from the traditional political landscape. You are coming from more of a boots on the ground activist, kind of getting down and dirty landscape, which I think really serves well now, being more front facing politically, because you have worked on and advocated for policy change head on. So since you've been involved in activism from a young age, and you're still young, but younger than how old you are now, what experiences first pushed you towards organizing and political advocacy?
Yeah, so I mean, it all started, I think, 2008 financial crisis for me when my family lost everything. I was a child to a single mother in the heart of for a lot of those Black community, and we lost everything that year. Like many people, I mean, my mom was working 3, 4, 5 jobs trying to make ends meet, and I remember something distinctly. I remember one night, shortly after the 2008 financial crisis, 2008 election, I remember we getting a knock at the door. It was the landlord with a Broward sheriff's deputy executing a writ of eviction on our family, a writ of removal. And at the time, as a kid, I had no idea, what that meant, what was happening. I just remember being scared. I remember, us having to sleep in our car that night, maybe going to stay with our grandmother for a couple of days, couch surfing, storage facilities, and waking up every day, showering at the beach before we went to school. And that was the reality for me as a kid. And I started to ask myself the question, why is this happening to my family? Why do I have to feel scared? Why am I afraid of DCF taking me away from my mom or separating me and my siblings? And asking that question why, I started to understand, this wasn't just my family. I had other classmates going through the same thing. It was so widespread, and I know I was going through it. And I started to look at systems at a young age. I started to I'm a kid. I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I going through this? Why do I have other classmates who live on the other side of town who don't have to face these issues, who live in nice, fancy homes? So as time went on, I started to ask questions and get involved in politics, speaking up at county commission meetings, school board meetings about things that were important to me at the time and things that I were going through, about maybe textbooks at school, maybe after school enrichment programs for students to eat, about homelessness. And then I channeled that into politics. And I think one of my first bouts into that was around the time of Trayvon Martin's shooting, when Black Lives Matter became a movement. And I was part of that movement and the start of the Black Lives Matter Alliance in Broward County, when we started protesting first about this issue and then about other issues, including a family member of mine that did get shot by BSO, Linda Sue Davis. I didn't know her very well, but I do know my mom knew her very well. My grandmother did. She's a family member. And so that was, very close to my family, seeing gun violence, how it affected the family as a whole. And so I started to get involved, and I started going to protests and speaking up. And that's why I got involved in activism, because I wanted to change something about the way things were going, whether it was, police brutality, whether it was the fact that our family had to go through poverty while you've seen all these rich people in the community and while government wasn't doing anything. So I was forced into advocacy at a young age, when I would have wanted to do other things, of course, at a young age. But that was my entryway into activism and into advocacy.
How do you think, I guess, coming from the advocacy and activism space, how does that give you an advantage in politics where at least the current political landscape, it feels like politicians don't really have
Right.
a motivation to really move the needle forward because there's a lot of job security and just
Yeah.
sitting on Capitol Hill doing nothing.
Yeah.
So where do you think that advantage comes from actually being kind of boots on the ground advocacy?
Yeah, I mean, organizing is inherent to me, I think, because I've done it so long. So I come to politics with an organizer brain, not really like a consultant driven Washington brain, where they come in and just raise money, do these little three things. And I think, how can we do things a little bit different? How can we move the needle? How can we get people thinking differently? And that's not something you usually see from people on Capitol Hill. And that's partially, like you said, because a lot of these people haven't gone through things. They've had a silver spoon in their mouth for their entire life. They've been handed everything. Maybe some of them went through a few things, but they got comfortable on Capitol Hill, and they're still stuck in the old way of thinking. And so I think for me, coming in as a young person who's been through things, who's organized, who's been on the front line of many of these fights and movements, I have a little bit of a natural advantage because of that, because I'm already thinking of new ways to do things, new ways to campaign, new ways to reach people and get them engaged. And then I think I'm just more in tune with what people actually want, because I'm around people every day. I take the bus to go where I need to go for most of the time. Now I got me a little rental car, so I go around. But I take the bus most of the time, so I'm around people. I hear them. I'm at the bus terminal. I'm in the places where regular people are and hearing their conversations, what they're thinking, what's on their mind. And sometimes I ask them what's on their mind. And so I'm hearing what everyday people are thinking about, and people are sitting up on Capitol Hill, and they don't really have conversations with people. They don't really talk to people. They don't really
Yeah.
ask people the tough questions, and they don't get asked tough questions. And that's why I think, what I have been able to build in this district so far in this race is something that's just authenticity, because I've lived it, I know it, and I don't have to like have a consultant come and tell me like, hey, this is how you tell your story. Like, it's just my story. It's just natural.
So you've been in the activism space for quite some time. What has happened or what has motivated you to say now is the time? Now is the time for me to step into leadership, be more front facing, and be elected to go up to Capitol Hill and represent Florida?
A lot of it was just looking at some of these people and just saying, wow, a lot of these people are like a box of rocks. They're just, I'm like, these are the people we elect, and they're not the smartest people. I look at Capitol Hill and people, oh, these are doctors and lawyers and smart people who are, some of these people are like, I don't know, it's like high school brains. But for me, like in 2024, when we lost that election, of course I was angry because this, I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but this guy is back into the White House again a second time. How do we let this happen? And how did the party let this happen? And then it was really the aftermath of that, watching between the time he won the election and January 20th when he took office, and seeing the Democratic Party leadership not knowing what to do, not trying to figure out what to do. And I'm saying, we already know what this man was going to do. He said what he was going to do. We should already know how we're going to fight. And seeing that and watching it, I said, you know what? I can't just sit here. Like I remember the day after I took the day after the election off from work, but the following day I went back to work, and I'm a substitute teacher, so I was in the classroom and just looking at the kids. They were frightened. A lot of these kids were frightened because a lot of them, their kids, their parents are immigrants, or their parents might be on TPS, and they're scared because of the rhetoric and what people are saying. And people are like, oh, he's going to round up everybody on January 20th or January 21st and start doing the largest deep So the kids were scared, and they're asking me like, hey, what do we do? Like, are we going to be okay? And that's the first time like I felt something even bigger break inside of me, because I couldn't look at that kid and say everything's going to be all right. I couldn't look at them and say everything, because I'm looking at Democratic Party leadership, shrugging their shoulders like, well, it is what it is. And it's like, no, these kids are going through things. So for me, I told myself, like, I don't want to complain about it. I don't want to just sit here and talk about it. If I want to see something move, I want to see some change, I need to be a part of that. And, to hell with, waiting to turn and, letting them figure it out. Like, no, like, I don't think politics should be about turns and, how much money you have and all of those types of things. It should be about regular people saying, I don't like what's happening in my own party, in my own community, and I want to change it.
So I noticed on your campaign website, you said that you were 8 years old when Obama was elected. That made me feel very old because I was 18 and he was the first person I ever cast a ballot for. So very, very exciting. But what we are seeing, I think, is a changing tide, right? I know here in Georgia, we have someone who is getting ready to run for U.S. House that has been sitting in that seat since 1975. He is 80. Yes. Okay, there we go. So you're familiar. Yes, Mr. David Scott, who was falling asleep in the middle of the State of the Union last week. What do you say to people who say, you know, you're too young, you haven't sat in a local position, you need to work your way up, which is a lot of the rhetoric that you hear, right? Like, you need to prove yourself, you need to pay your dues. What do you say to those people that are kind of holding on to the status quo about the moment that we're in now and what people on the ground who will be your constituents actually want for Broward and Palm Beach counties?
I tell them to look at everything right now. If having that level of experience and being there for a long time really meant anything, why are we sitting right now with Donald Trump terrorizing our country right now, sitting iced, masked ICE agents terrorizing people in the community right now? Why are we experiencing all of these new wars out of nowhere? Why is the economy in trouble? Why do the Republicans control every branch of government again? If they had it all figured out, I wouldn't need to run. I would gladly say, okay, they had it all figured out. And I think what people want is they want new people. They want younger people. They want new leadership. And I don't understand why we have all of these, octogenarians wanting to be in power so long. I don't want that when I'm that age. I don't want to be nowhere near Capitol Hill. But also, let's say we win this majority back. I mean, if we had won it in 2024, we would have lost it a few months in because of so many of the deaths of Democratic House members. And we can't afford that. Let's say we win the majority back in November, which looks highly likely, and we see all of these people start dying again and dying in their seats. And let's say we lose the majority because of that. We can put somewhat of a stop to what Donald Trump is doing by taking the House back, at least delegitimize it. To lose, we can't afford to lose a majority. We cannot afford to lose the leverage that we'll have to hold them accountable because somebody won't hang it up. And people need to learn to pass the torch to another generation. I think it's highly selfish for people to be running, at that age when we have so much at stake right now. David Scott shouldn't be running. He should have said, I'm not going to run this cycle. Him fouling is an indictment of the Democratic Party. What we've seen 31, I think, or so, House Republicans say we're not running for re-election. That's a big deal that Republicans are willing to pass it on to the next generation and they're willing to retire. But House Democrats, many of them are unwilling to hang it up. And there are going to be consequences for that.
So I know that Florida's 20th congressional district has one of the largest, if not the largest, Black population in Florida, and also suffers from very significant economic disparities. You could drive over an intersection and be in a completely different type of community. What do you see are the biggest issues facing residents in that district right now? What are their priorities and what do they want to see done on day one?
Yeah, I think there has probably been no place in Florida that's been hit like the hardest than this district. I mean, a district that contains the muck, Belglade and Pahokee, people who are living. You go there, sometimes you think you're going back in time. And I drive through there a lot. I go through there, I visit the people, and they're going through some of the worst poverty I've ever seen in my life. You see certain people in Lauderdale and Lauderdale Lakes in the inner city as well, in Fort Lauderdale, going through it. And it's really, part of it is because it's been neglected and ignored so long. This district has been neglected and ignored and brutalized and taken advantage of by vultures. And people are struggling. People can't afford their rent in this district. People don't have health care. And the little health care that they have, Republicans are trying to cut it with cuts to Medicaid, to SNAP. I think we have about 150,000, maybe more, maybe 200,000 people that rely on Medicaid that are going to lose their health insurance, their health coverage because of Republicans. We have tens of thousands of people. I think one of the largest numbers of people on SNAP benefits in this district. A lot of those people are losing those benefits because of I call it the big bullshit bill that passed last year. And that passing is taking food out of children's mouths. People here living in food deserts. can't find grocery stores and within like 2 miles of your house sometime. And a lot of these people, they don't maybe not have cars, or it's far away, or there's not healthy food nearby. People are struggling. And then one of the things I'm hearing from a lot of people as well is like they can't find good paying jobs near them. Like a lot of the jobs are kind of like not the best, or they're starvation wages they're making. And people are saying like, dang, like I want to work. It's just where am I going to work if I'm going to get paid $7 an hour? And now I'm have to work 2 or 3 jobs to pay the bill. So what I'm hearing from people is just that they have an economy that's just not, it's not for them. It's for rich people. And they see that the district is being taken advantage of. But I'm also hearing from people in this district, um, immigration. There's a lot of immigrants that live here, both Haitian immigrants. There's some Venezuelans as well. There are others, Jamaican, and losing TPS is going to jeopardize a lot of people in this community. And I do believe ICE is going to come here and terrorize our community. There's currently a stay on by a judge right now, but once that is gone, I do believe they're going to come here. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the income disparity in a district. You could drive across the street and things are completely different. And I think that sums up South Florida, how we see all the development happening throughout the community, but not enough money going into building the roads in our community, not enough money going to affordable housing, not enough money not enough being done by our local government to take care of the people in our community. But we can take care of Los Olas. We can take care of the beach. We can take care of all the wealthier parts of the community. And you go into, Franklin Park, people there are struggling, and that's not fair. And so this district has been taken advantage of time and time again. People don't have health care. They can't pay the rent. Their property insurance is going up for those that own a home. And it's hard right now to be Black and to be a homeowner. A lot of people are struggling. They reached that dream and took many years. Some of these people have been in their homes. They bought a home and they've been in it for 40 years in their community, and now all the costs are going up around them because of the gentrification and because of not smart development in the communities. And people are struggling and they're hurting, and they don't really have a voice. They don't have anybody doing nothing about it. You have county commissioners doing nothing about it. You have people on a local level doing nothing about it. Congress doing nothing about it. People just come there, get the votes, and then they disappear for 2 or 4 years.
So I want to touch on this housing crisis that Florida has, not just in affordable housing, but Florida is hurricane prone. Hurricane season every year, I think, brings dread to all homeowners, not only because of rising affordability, but also an insurance crisis where the state has allowed a monopoly in the housing insurance market. You see insurance companies pulling out of the state because they do not want the risk. Of course, a lot of that is linked to climate change as well. What are federal policies that you think would help to create some meaningful change in the housing affordability crisis in Florida, and specifically in your district, Florida 20?
Yep. So I do support, obviously, building more public housing in our communities. I think that a lot of the public housing we already have hasn't been updated because of Ronald Reagan's ban on federal funds to upgrade public housing. So you have some of these units like the green apartments in Fort Lauderdale that haven't been touched or had any improvements made to them since the 80s. I think my mom grew up in one of those, and she says it still looks like it still has the same AC unit in it from the 80s. It's really sad how people are forced to live. There's a backlog of people that want Section 8. Part of what I want to do is end that backlog. We have the housing supply, and maybe more landlords need to offer Section 8. And I also support a homes guarantee. I think federally, we need to guarantee everybody a home. I know a lot of what I'm saying I'm not going to pass through Congress anytime soon, but I think there's power in advocating for something you believe in. And I think it could change a lot of minds too on all sides. So investing in the housing supply, I've said I'm going to, when I'm in Congress, work with our municipalities to make sure that they're building and developing smartly and they're building affordable housing and get them the federal funds they need to do that. And I think that's an issue our current member isn't doing. It's not focusing enough on securing dollars for housing. It's great to put the money to build a playground on a park. We all support that. It's great to say for a couple roads, here's a couple $1 million. But what am I going to do to make sure the cities in my district have the money for housing, to build housing in their community, truly affordable? None of this nonsense they call affordable, where it's like 3 units in there and they're all $3,000 a month. People can't afford that.
And
You know,
that is what Pembroke Pines and Miramar and Lauderhill, they look like that, which is ridiculous.
yeah. I mean,
Absolutely ridiculous.
and I'm going to use a little bit of a bully pulpit when I get to Congress. I want the entire district and all the municipalities on the same page. We need to be all on the same page. I'm not advocating for federal dollars for no nonsense. If you want me to advocate for federal dollars for your municipality, you need to be using that money to build housing. You need to be using that money to help people. You need to be using that money to make transit available and not mediocre in Florida because we have mediocre public transit. But on housing, there's no excuse why cities can't say we're going to invest money into building housing, even if it's publicly owned housing in the city. Like, we're going to invest the money. Yes, public-private partnerships work sometimes. Yes, you want to have all of these developments, but the cities can do something. They can build housing as well, and changing their zoning laws as well. I think there's some room to do some upzoning in some areas and in some of these cities, because single-family homes is not going to be the way of the future. I think what is this, but in the future they're going to need to build up for the capacity, the population growth that we're going to see. So I think it's going to be bringing people in, bringing people from the private sector in, of course, working with the local governments to get approvals to build housing supply, to upzone, build mid rises. I think are going to be great in a big way. Townhomes and making sure that they're not just for profit, that people that they're for the community truly, and people have control over it.
So I want to touch on that as well because Florida as a state is very business friendly because of the lack of state income tax. So a lot of businesses like to headquarter in Florida and kind of build roots. And a lot of the businesses that I've seen and corporations I've seen move there are these big corporate developers. And then you have corporations like Greystone that they initially started in rental, and now they have rental only new build communities, which I think is nuts. How much of the affordability crisis in Florida do you think is due to a lot of this corporate friendly type of mentality that the local government has, from the governor's mansion all the way down to county commissioners?
I think is most of it. I think it's the problem. We've allowed housing to become a commodity, where corporations can buy up housing, use it as assets for them to get loans. These private equity firms coming in. Airbnb is starting, I heard, to just buy up housing
Mm-hmm.
to have their own, like, instead of individuals, corporate Airbnb properties. I think it's all disgusting. I think, we have to decommodify housing. I think that's going to be key to doing all of this. And a lot of this is going to have to happen on the local level. But I think Tallahassee has allowed these developers to come in and just do whatever they want. And while the Live Local Act in Florida does have some promise, then there's some good things to it. The ideal of Live Local is great. The way it's being implemented, I think, is a disaster. With the state government saying that the local governments can't put any regulation on how they build housing. The spirit of Live Local is great. What they're trying to do is they're not trying to build housing. They're just trying to say, okay, well, these corporate developers can come in and build, these units that are going for $4,000 or $5,000 a month that no one can afford, and then they can sell them between each other, back and forth. Some of these high rises being sold back and forth, rents being spiked up every time, never going down. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And like you said, all of these developers that are coming into the state, they're getting these corporate tax breaks. They don't have to pay income tax, and they're being allowed to just come in and scrape up housing in our communities, and they're not accountable to us. And that's the way the Republicans in Tallahassee like it. They like it just like that.
So the other thing I want to get your opinion on as well is this year, on top of the candidates that will be on the ballot, there are a lot of state referendums that will be on the ballot. And this is where I tend to see voters kind of like, I don't know what this means, so I'm just going to put something, right? And one of those referendums is the ending of property taxes in the state. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, it could be very detrimental for a lot of institutions in Florida. What is your take on the property tax issue? Could this be good? Could this be bad? And what will it look like specifically, possibly for our community, the Black community?
So I'll say off the bat, I don't support it. I think it's nonsensical. I do support definitely there being some property tax relief for people who are struggling. I think that's what probably will end up happening. That's what should happen. But getting rid of property taxes in its entirety is ludicrous proposition. There, how will you fund wastewater and waste management programs? How would you fund police and fire? I mean, local governments will have to eliminate. They will either have to eliminate lots of public services, and we know that's going to hurt the Black community the most and communities of color, or they'll have to raise taxes, which will hurt communities of color the most as well. And so I don't understand why they're really doing. I mean, I know it's so that a couple rich people don't have to pay more in taxes. But that's always what it is. Let's hope the you know the rich boomer class that write the checks for our campaigns, but everyone else is going to be screwed. And local governments are going to have to raise taxes. Sales tax are going to have to go up, and we know that's going to hurt communities of color and poor people the most in our communities. If you raise the sales tax up, I mean, I saw some analysis that says sales tax will have to go up to like 20 cents or dollar or something like that, which is insane. The sales tax for online purchases for electronics will have to go up, and that hurts working class communities. And for the Black community, I mean, I know like, we spend a lot of our money at the grocery stores, taking care of our families, buying clothes, buying food, and we're going to feel that. And I know to a billionaire, 20 cents on the dollar may not mean much to them, but it means something to us when we're at the gas pump, when we're at the grocery store, and we're spending our hard-earned money, which is already spread too thin, which we already don't have enough of to afford what we need to live. We're spending more of that money now in taxes. And I thought, Republicans was the party of lower taxes. And now they're essentially doing a giant, multi-billion dollar tax increase on working families. They're raising, because it sounds great. Like you said, oh, we're going to get rid of property taxes. And there are a lot of people that own properties, and they're like, yes, I don't want to pay nobody wants to pay property taxes. I don't want to pay for, I don't own a house, but if I did, I don't want to pay property taxes. But it sounds good, but it's actually a tax increase because you're going to be paying it in other places. And so I want people to understand this is not a tax break. This is not, oh, you're not going to pay less in taxes. Nope, the tax is just going to move to something else. Your tax is going to go up in other places. You're going to pay more in sales tax. You're going to have to pay more at the grocery store, at the gas pump. You're going to pay more, and you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that in your sales. You're going to feel that in the everyday goods that you buy. You're going to feel it. And then you're going to feel it in the public services that you lose when your water bill has to go up, because now it costs the city. The cost to the city isn't going to change. They still have to, keep up with inflation and labor and all of these issues. They have to make improvements to the water plants, the water treatment facilities. Those costs are still there. Just because they get rid of the property tax doesn't mean the services go away. They still have to pay for it. And so now your water bill is going up because, okay, we got rid of property taxes, but yeah, you still got to pay the water bill, and the city still has to maintain a water plant. That still costs money. Your light bill is going to go up. Your trash bill is going to go up. Everything's going to go up. Your city taxes are going to go up. Your sales tax is going to go up. And that's unacceptable. And so it's a tax break for the rich, and it's raising taxes for everyone else.
So now I want to move to healthcare. If we had Medicare for all, how would that system work, and how could it change healthcare access for everyday Americans and your constituents?
So I know everyone understands that if you have, a health policy, a health insurance policy, you have to deal with that insurance company all the time. You got to pay that copay, that high deductible before you can even use it. And then you have to pay out of pocket. And you're like, I have this insurance. Why do I have to pay out of pocket? You still have to pay massive amounts out of pocket. And if you're having a procedure, sometime a life saving procedure, very important for you to live, you got to get permission from these insurance companies, which I call death panels, because they get to decide whether you live or die. With Medicare for all, we essentially get rid of the middleman. We take the insurance company out of the picture, and now it's the government. And you just get an insurance card. You get a card for Medicare. You get to go to the doctor when you're sick, when you need help. It was not for cosmetics. Like if I want to go out and get like plastic surgery, or I want to look good and everything. It's not for any of those like cosmetic type things. It's for like your healthcare. For you when you're sick, you need to go to the doctor, you need to get a checkup. And so you just go to the doctor, you pull out that Medicare card. At the point of service is free. Yes, you're paying through your taxes for this service. So like every other public service, you're paying through your tax. But right now you're being double taxed because you are paying for your healthcare. out of your taxes, out of your pocket, and you're being double taxed. And so with Medicare for All, we're saying everyone gets health care. We're not looking for an insurance card. We're not looking to enrich, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Health. That goes away. The government provides you the health care that you need. You go to the hospital like it should be, and you get the care that you need. And that's how it should be, because in the richest country on the face of the earth, healthcare should be free to everybody. And it's free to the rich right now. The rich, they don't have to pay. They don't have to go to the, and they can afford to if they're required to, but they get all of the public services for free and they don't pay the taxes. And for everyone else, you get double taxed. So what Medicare for All is saying, if you go to the doctor, you get to see a doctor and you don't have to pay, these high deductibles, these high co-payments, these high out-of-pocket expenses. You don't get that crazy bill in the mail from the hospital saying you owe them $22,000 for an ER visit. And then you don't really know what you're paying for because it's always moving the bill, and then it gets sold to a collection agency, and now it's on your credit, destroying your credit and making it possible for you to buy a home, buy a car, do anything in your life because of this. They're literally killing people. And what Medicare for All is designed to do is provide people with a public service that should be free to everybody. It saves lives. It's more cost effective than anything that we have right now when it comes to healthcare. And it saves the taxpayer a lot of money as well. Because right now, when uninsured people go to the hospital and they don't have insurance, taxpayers are ending up having to pay out of our pocket for that. And so we're actually saving money. We're saving billions of dollars a year with Medicare for All. And this is, even the Koch brothers, their own studies even show that Medicare for All saves the country money and is the right thing to do. So I don't understand why we don't have Medicare for All. I mean, I do. We have an insurance system, insurance companies, and even big pharma that spends a lot of money giving money to politicians to keep them from supporting single payer healthcare and universal healthcare through the form of Medicare for All. And so I'm going to co-sponsor Medicare for All in Congress because I think it's the right thing to do. People shouldn't have to have their medicine because they can't afford it, and they should not have to go to a death panel of people they never met in their life to use the health insurance that they pay for.
I'm so glad that you touched on the fact that this also affects single payer options as well, because a lot of the arguments that you hear on the other side is, I don't want to have to pay for someone else to do X, Y, and Z, which, like it or not, that those are legitimate feelings. But what they don't realize is that when people show up to the ER, because that's where you go when you don't have healthcare insurance. Number one, you don't go to the doctor on a regular basis when you don't have health insurance. And that leads to these medical emergencies that take you to the emergency room because you're guaranteed care there. But who picks up that bill? Oftentimes it's the people that are on private insurance, and they don't realize that your premiums and your policies are based a lot on these medical bills from people who don't have health insurance that show up to the emergency room and they need care. So I'm glad that you touched on that. I know earlier you talked about food deserts, which is a real thing. And I used to joke growing up in South Florida that Publix don't come to the hood. You never see a Publix in the hood. And I used to think it was a joke, but now as an adult, I'm like, no, yeah, you can actually predict property values based on your proximity to a Publix, which is crazy. But one thing that I think is not being talked about enough is healthcare deserts, places where you have to travel 20, 30, 40 miles to get to a hospital, or mothers who have to travel to find a OBGYN when they are pregnant. So access to prenatal and postnatal care. How do you see that showing up in the South Florida community? Is it something that is affecting your constituents? And what do you think the state of Florida and the federal government should be doing about healthcare access as it relates to hospitals?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. This is actually something I want to tackle in my first term, and because in District 20 in Broward and in Palm Beach, this is a big issue, especially on our side of the community, in the Black community. Yeah. With, if you need to go to the hospital, you got to go to Broward General all the way out east because there's no hospitals. And we used to have Plantation General Hospital. That's gone now. Yep. That's completely gone. So we don't have one in the hood. You have Florida Medical Center, and it's like, good luck getting seats in Florida Medical Center. I don't think it's they have the funding that they need. And so I think, especially when we're talking about people having emergencies, because I went to the ER like about a week and a half ago, and I sat there. I got there at 7 p.m. and I didn't get seen until 3 in the morning. And it turned out it was bad, and I needed to be seen. And I had to like literally go to them and like, hey, like my chest is hurting really bad. Like I need, and they took an EKG and it came back. No, wait, you needed to be back there a long time ago, so we could take care of this. And I'm looking around, you see people sitting in there. They reading like 12, 13, 14 hours. They might have to go to work the next day. So people are walking out saying, I'd rather just die at home. Like, and they're leaving. It's because they're, there's one hospital that's supposed to serve all of these hundreds of thousands of people, and there's no other place to go. And then for our community, for the healthcare desert you talk about, affecting the Black community, where people are saying, I'd rather stay home. And so I think we need more urgent care facilities. We need more hospitals, more clinics. And I think there needs to be community health clinics in every single zip code in our district. I support that having that in the state of Florida. I think in our district, one of the things I want to make sure is we have a community health clinic in every one of our in every zip code in the district. Provide more funding for Florida Medical Center, find a way to get Plantation General Hospital back open to the public, back supporting our community in Central Broward. And you shouldn't have to just go all the way out to Cleveland Clinic or Hollywood Memorial or Broward General or Imperial Point. You know, as you see, all these hospitals are all in the white areas. It's like not really any. The only one for Black people is right there in Lauderhill, in Florida Medical Center, and that's a shame. And what we're seeing is bad health outcomes for our entire community because people would rather stay and not go to the doctor because you have to take a whole day off of work, and not a lot of people can do that, or they don't get paid when they take the day off. You don't want to wait in the ER. You don't have health insurance. There's no facility near you. Maybe you don't have a car to be able to drive there, or the bus don't really go to the hospital, and or it's 3 hours to get on the bus. These are all preventable issues that can be solved through public policy. And to me, it's just embarrassing that nobody's doing anything about it or thinking about how to address this. And that's part of the reason why I'm in this race, is because I look at these issues and I'm like, well, this is easy fixable. Like, okay, get more funding, open more facilities, run more bus routes through these high traffic areas, through these important corridors where hospitals are, where healthcare clinics are, where food markets are, where these malls are as well. More bus routes for people, so they don't have to wait 3 hours to get on the bus to go to work or to go to the hospital. It's little stuff like that I think we should do in our community. More specialized facilities for people to get, to go see a specialist. Maybe they're having, heart, OBGYN. More facilities available to people, and even public facilities, because when it's just private entities coming in, they create the rules, and in Florida, they're allowed to do what they want. I think we need to have more public facilities. Cities need to step up. County government need to step up and say, we're going to open a county-run clinic or a city-run clinic for people, in the community. Okay, this facility is going to be on 7th Avenue or on Sistrunk Boulevard. So people within those 2 miles know, okay, I can go here and I can get seen. Or maybe, I fell off the bicycle and I bust my leg up a little bit. Maybe I don't need to go to the ER for that, but I can go to the clinic, and that brings the wait times down for the ER, because people with minor issues can go to a clinic nearby and get seen. And they should be 24 hours. They shouldn't be closing, like some of these urgent care facilities or clinics closing at 8 p.m. That's just, people have emergencies after that.
Right.
There's so many ways to just look at this stuff, and that's a big issue. I know that's a big issue in Broward, and I know for sure because I've had an elected official in Belle Glade tell me, we need more like healthcare options in this community. Like, what will you do to help? And that's on the top of my mind, is how can I get healthcare facilities into that community and into rural parts of Palm Beach as well, because there are rural communities out there that are in the district, out in near the Everglades, out close to Clewiston, where people live there. And people may say, well, it's only a couple thousand of them. That's a couple thousand people that matter. Those people
that
matter.
Need healthcare, yeah.
Those 5,000 people matter, and they shouldn't have to drive all the way to West Palm Beach to go to a healthcare facility or to see a specialist. They shouldn't have to, there's no buses running to Belle Glade. So, they don't have a card and they're out of luck. And that's not right.
Now, is the minimum wage in Florida still $7.25?
No, it actually, we in 2018, we approved a ballot measure to raise it to $15 an hour by 2026. So it's currently 14, and it'll be 15 in September of this year.
Okay, so much better, but
with exceptions, there are exceptions. Of course, they find a way to be evil. So,
well, we're hopefully getting there. But arguably, that is not considered a living wage in this particular time. So I want to touch on wages and labor within your constituents. I know your platform supports heavily strengthening worker protections, and part of that also includes wages. What federal changes would you advocate to improve wages and working conditions for Floridians?
Yeah, so I think the minimum wage should probably go up to $20, $25 by 2032 is what I'm calling. I'm going with 20. So I think people are, kind of big change. So radically, it's radical to people. I don't know, but $20, $25 by 2032. I think we can advocate to get that done. And I think federally, on a federal level, I'm going to
Yeah.
advocate for that minimum wage federally to go up to 15 to start. I think that's where we're going to probably be able to end up at. $7 and a quarter is starvation. There's no reason why that should be the federal minimum wage. That's embarrassing. So I will sponsor legislation to do that, and I will use the powers of what I will have in Congress, even if I have to shut some shit down. I will do it, and because they shut government down if they don't get tax breaks for billionaires. Why don't we shut it down because we don't get wage increases for poor people, for working people? I think we should. And then another thing I'm looking at, I had the privilege of interning for OSHA at the Department of Labor about 2 years ago, and I learned a lot in that process. I learned how much power is in the rulemaking process there, how much power OSHA has for inspections and fines they can give these workplaces. And so I want to strengthen OSHA and the Department of Labor's ability to enforce labor laws. And part of what I want to do is have a workplace safety prosecutor within the Department of Labor. I know most of the time prosecutors was in the Justice Department, but I want there to be a prosecutor within the Department of Labor having the same power as the Justice Department to subpoena, to investigate, and to present charges, because workplace safety issues are important. They're big, and there are a lot of employers. And I saw a lot of this. I can't even tell you the things I saw because a lot of that is classified. But I saw a lot of things working at OSHA that I'm like, whoa, and they get away with it. And Republicans let them get away with this too. And some Democrats do. They don't pay attention, and they don't want OSHA to be strong. They don't want the Labor Department to be strong. And so a lot of these workplace hazards and these occupational safety and health issues that we're seeing in the workplace, a lot of it is because okay, yeah, they get a fine for like $17,000. It's like, okay, to the corporation, that's nothing. They pay it. They don't really do anything. There are not enough inspectors in these departments. They need more money. They need a bigger budget. They need more inspectors. They need younger people to come in and take these jobs, because Doge came in and eliminated a lot of these jobs where people retire and they're doing workforce reductions in the labor department, which I don't think they should be doing. They need to hire more people. And I think one of the things I would advocate for immediately when I get in office is having that prosecutor, that workplace safety prosecutor or labor prosecutor within the Labor Department, instead of just referring it to the Justice Department. Let's do it from there with the tools of the Justice Department within the Department of Labor.
We have an older generation that is dying off, with the majority of the workforce and the electorate right now being millennials and Gen Z, who often probably hold the most student loan debt. And I know for myself, that is a huge concern when we're talking about job security, when we're talking about job choice, what professions we're going into, and then just overall quality of life. What approach do you support for addressing the current debt crisis?
So I think we need to cancel all student loan debt. I think that's where we need to start. And I don't think we should means test it. I know there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party that say, let's cancel it for some groups, but not all, or not for the children of wealthy people, which I push back on heavily, because there are a lot of people that, they have student loans because they're not with their families, or they might be LGBTQ children that don't have, or students that don't have, the access of their families. And I think means testing things is the wrong way to go about it. I think we should do it for everybody. That's the right thing to do. So I think canceling all student loan debt, the same way we are able to, give, billions of dollars in these giveaways to corporations and to billionaires, why don't we give Main Street something in the form of student debt cancellation? I think that's what we should do, just cancel it all. And I also believe that for medical debt as well.
So something that we have touched on, but now I kind of want to touch it directly, is the Democratic Party and whether or not the Democratic Party is currently meeting the moment. I know that you mentioned that, we can shut the government down for whatever reason that we want. And we just went through the longest government shutdown, 40 days over ACA subsidies. A lot of people, myself included, would say that the Democrats failed to meet the moment at that time. Although, yes, people were suffering, there was a large support for the government shutdown because these ACA subsidies were so important. Now we have a new generation of leadership, younger leaders, more progressive leaders coming into the fold and kind of shaking things up. What do you feel about the party, even though you're running as a Democrat? What do you feel about the current direction of the party, and where do you think the party needs to go in order to ensure its survival?
Yeah, I think the party is operating in the Clinton era still, and it has failed to meet the moment because, I mean, part of it is you do have a lot of these older people still there who are still calling the shots of what direction a party should be going in, but they're failing to meet the moment and they don't know why because they don't have the best people there. And you said it. There are a lot of younger progressive people coming in and they're beating the drum and saying, "Hey, this is what we should be doing," because the base of the party is not where the Clintons were in the 90s. People are fed up and upset. And you can see that with the way the media environment is. Republicans are out there pushing out their propaganda through the media environment, through media entities, through social media, the whole media ecosystem they control because they're a few years ahead of us in terms of how they're organizing. Democratic Party is still stuck in this old way of thinking, and it has to change. And so part of what I think needs to happen is we need new leaders. I definitely think Chuck Schumer has to go. I think he's part of the problem we've had. I mean, I know House Democrats have been a little bit more willing to say, no, we're going to shut things down. We're not going to give votes. And I think when I saw every House Democrat vote against the Republicans, I was like, wow. In the Senate, you somehow have people that think voting with the Republicans, like Fetterman and some of these other idiots. I don't think that's right, and I think he has to go. So I think Chuck Schumer has to go, and I know there will be a primary with potentially from AOC. We'll see how that goes. But I think there need to be more primaries. I think more people need to challenge some of these Democrats that are in office, these older Democrats, even younger ones who are failing to meet the moment, who are selling out working class people for a buck from a couple billionaires. I think that's wrong. And so the direction of the party needs to be populist. We need to listen to people. We need to fight back. We need to use the tools that Republicans use, because why the hell is it that when Republicans get in power, they're able to do whatever the hell they want? Shut down the government, ram things through, obstruct, destroy. And when we get in power, we're like, oh, well, we can't do anything because we don't have the majority, or we can't do anything because we don't have the Senate. We can't do anything because we have the Senate. We have the House, or we don't have the presidency. Let's not do anything. Let's just vote and get the majority back. That's all we say. Give money and vote. And people are tired of donating to Democrats for them to do nothing. And so what we got to do is we got to start doing something differently. And obstruction should be the way we go. When we take the majority back in the House, if we are lucky to do so this year, we should take it back and we should start to obstruct Donald Trump's agenda. Obstruction shouldn't be a bad word. The things they're doing is worthy of obstruction. Kidnapping citizens off the street, kidnapping immigrants off the street, terrorizing communities, shooting people in the face, going into schools, churches, homes, kidnapping people, home invasions, attacking protesters, all of the things that they're doing, starting wars, cutting our healthcare and our church, ignoring the courts, going after journalists and judges and politicians and fake indictments, all of this stuff that they're doing, kidnapping, sending people off to other countries, going to other countries and kidnapping people. Like the stuff that they're doing, the wild stuff that they've been able to do for the last year and a half because of them having the majority, they're doing that. And it's worthy of us obstructing and shutting governments down and saying hell no, or cutting funding and impeaching people. It's worthy of it. And so that's what Democratic voters want to see. That's why we're seeing this big wave of people challenging incumbents and primarying people. And the party is mad as hell. The base is mad. Like even moderate Democrats are mad. It is not even a moderate progressive thing. Democrats are just upset. It's like the most moderate person I can find is like, F the Democratic Party right now because they're not doing anything. And we need to see our party do something differently. And part of that is going to be we need to fight the way the people in this country want us to fight. They want us to put up a fight. They want us to shut things down. They want us to obstruct. They want us to stop Donald Trump and use the tools. Not to say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Because if that's the case, why am I sending you to Washington? Why am I giving you my money if there's nothing you can do about it?
So, on that note, I know a lot of people feel as though part of why things can't necessarily be done is because some politicians are beholden to certain corporate interests that fund their campaigns, specifically corporate PACs. And there are concerns about dark money and corporate money being involved in our politics. Where do you stand on corporate PACs being involved in the political process, and how politicians should deal with corporate and campaign finance?
Yeah, so I think we need to ban dark money from our politics. Citizens United was a travesty, and I do think that it's going to come down to Democrats packing their Supreme Court to take back our democracy. That's the only way. We can't wait for somebody else to save us. We got to do it ourselves. Because the dark money, the super PACs that are coming in, the Republicans spending unlimited amounts of money to buy elections, to shut down progressives, shut down Democrats is wrong. And so we need to ban corporate money from our influence from our politics, ban dark money. Otherwise, we're going to forever have a party and a political system that's beholding to corporate special interests. And it shouldn't have to be that way. And it is already hard. I say this as a young person, it's hard to run for office and to raise the money. And it's hard for working and regular people to want to run for office when they know like they're up against, millions and billions of dollars and dark corporate money being thrown, against them. And our democracy can be a lot better when we empower everyday people to participate in it, making election day a public holiday, getting rid of all of these obstructionary policies, attacking the right to vote and making it harder for people to vote, and making it easier to run for office without having to be a millionaire or billionaire to run for office, or be friends of millionaires and billionaires to run for office. So I think banning it, I think we as a Democratic Party, we can try to ban it from our Democratic primaries. I think that's the way to go. I think we set a rule that this is not allowed in Democratic primaries. I think we can set the example for the rest of the country.
In 5 years' time, if elected to Congress, what does Florida's Congressional District 20 look like under your leadership?
I want the district to look like a community that has a congressperson that's accountable to them. They feel like they're connected to their government. And I want a lot of people having access to healthcare, being able to rent and afford to live in the communities that they grew up in. I want the unemployment rate in our district to collapse. I want people to be working, to have health care. That's what I want our district to look like. We're already a beautiful community. I know it's a community that's going through a lot of things. There's a lot of poverty here, but we're beautiful people. It's a beautiful district. But I want our community to be a community where people have jobs, they have healthcare, they have housing. There's clinics in every zip code in the district. Those are the things I want people to hold me accountable to doing. These are the things I'm saying that I want to do, and I want people to hold me accountable to that. And I want 5 years down the line, people to say, like, we made the right bet by sending him to Washington to fight for us. Because in my community now, there's a clinic here for me. There's a new hospital in this district in Broward County for Central Broward, and in Palm Beach there's a new hospital in Belle Glade. I want people to hold me accountable, and I want 5 years from now me to look back and say I worked my tail off to make all of these things happen, because this is work. There are people out there that are running who think that this is a game, that this is about a title, or this is about clout. And I tell them, this is work. This is a job that you're doing to help people, because it's life or death for people. And that's how I view it. I view it from the lens of an organizer. We're helping people. We're getting everything in order, and we're trying to get the best outcomes from everyone and bring everyone and have them participate in the process. And I want Broward County politics to look completely different. I want younger people in office, from our county commissioners to our state legislators to our city and municipal government leaders. I want our Broward County, the bluest county in the state of Florida, to look like the bluest county in the state of Florida, to register young people to vote, to have younger people involved in the process, to wipe out all of these Republicans, even the fact that we have one Republican legislator on the coast of Broward. That shouldn't be the case. And in 5 years from now, if I'm in office, that won't be the case, because we're going to change that.
So, to the voters in your district who feel disillusioned with this whole process, who feel like they have lost hope in politics altogether, who feel, like you said earlier, that I voted for Democrats. I've fundraised for Democrats. I've sent my hard-earned money to Democrats just to see nothing happen. What do you say to them in a state that is trying to gerrymander and dilute their votes again, in a state that seems to be doing everything to dilute the Black vote? What do you tell them to get them out to vote for you?
If it wasn't powerful, they wouldn't be trying so hard to take it away from you. They know that our people in our district are some of the most reliable Democratic voters. They know that we are some of the strongest people. If they didn't think that we matter, they wouldn't be even paying attention to us. They know that there's something brewing in our community. They know that people are upset. And so the power is with you. If you want change, you got to go out there and get it. Change doesn't happen overnight. I look at places like Georgia where, it's purple, but they have two blue senators and they're trending blue. But that took years and years of organizing and work and setbacks and keep going. And I think for our community, change is going to come, but it's not inherent. It's going to come if we work for it. We got to work. We got to go out and we got to vote, and we got to vote for the right people. I mean, not everyone we elect to office are, that has a, come with the good face and sounding good is great for our community. Some people are the wrong people, and we got to be able to vote them out of office or not vote them in. And so I tell people, go out there and vote for the future that you know that you deserve. If you know you deserve healthcare, go out and vote for it. If you know that you deserve to not live in poverty, go out there and vote for it. If you know that you need a healthcare clinic in your district, in your zip code, go out there and vote for it. If you know you're working 2, 3, 4 jobs, the rent is going up, the wages staying the same, and every politician is bickering, Republicans bad, Democrats bad, go out and vote for the people that you know are talking about changing your life. Not people talking about what's happening over there or what's happening over there, all of this nonsense. The people talking about changing your life, your everyday life. Because that's all I'm focused on and worried about. I'm not focused on all of this other nonsense that people are talking about. I'm focused on making sure District 20, voters at District 20, not just about everybody that lives at District 20 has health care. That's important. It has housing. That's important to me. Make sure people in this district are not struggling to make ends meet every day or living in food deserts. I don't want food deserts to be a thing, or healthcare deserts to be a thing in this district in 5 years. I want that gone. And we deserve it. And that's the future we deserve. Anything less than that is mediocre, and we have to stop accepting mediocrity in our politics because we're not a mediocre people.
All right, Elijah, thank you so much. Let people know when Election Day is, when the primary election is, and also where they can find you and how they can be involved with your campaign.
Yep. So the primary election day is August 18th, 2026. Early vote by mail ballots go out early July, so make sure to check to see if you have a vote by mail ballot request. Send it in again. They're purging the rolls. They're getting rid of the requests. So request your vote by mail ballot if you haven't. Early voting will start in I think August 8th, I believe. But the primary is August 18th. The general election is November 3rd, I believe. So go out and make sure you're registered to vote. To find me, you go to ElijahManley.com. And you can learn about my platform, what I stand for. You can ask me questions and reach out to me as well. Get involved.
All right. And I encourage everyone to early vote. Today is March 3rd. We're recording on March 3rd. It is the Texas primary, and they are already on their shenanigans with people getting turned away at the polls on Election Day. So if you can vote early, please do, because I feel like Florida is on their way to doing some of the same, unfortunately. But Elijah, thank you so much for sharing your platform and taking the time to talk to me and the viewers. And I wish you the best of luck